If you do want to improve your relationship, there's a simple thing about relationships. The one thing that will change any relationship dynamic, whether it's family or friends or romantic, committed partnership, the one thing that changes any relationship is... I got two quick questions. We'll see if we have time for any more. But so Julie writes, Mel, what do I do if my family still doesn't understand me at the age of 55? They make me feel like I'm wrong and I can't fix it. So I'm going to attack this question. What do I do if my family doesn't understand me? They make me feel like I'm wrong and I can't seem to fix the dynamic. First of all, we got to talk about two things. One is your family's behavior and what you can do to potentially influence their behavior toward you. And the second thing is your processing and reaction to their behavior. So the first thing I want you to understand is that you can't change somebody else. If your family does not understand you, and if they say things or operate in a way that makes you feel wrong, you will probably never change that dynamic. And so one of the things that you need to do is you need to accept that this is just how it is. And you need to stop wishing that things could be different. And you need to focus your energy on changing your thought process and your actions in terms of how you respond to their behavior. Because there is the fact that your family does whatever your family does. They make you wrong, they criticize you, they don't pay attention to you, they spoil the other people. Whatever it is that the actions are, it is what it is. If you're in your 50s and this is how it's always been, this is probably how it's always going to be. And the faster that you accept that and you stop going to the source that hurt you to try to find your healing, the faster you will gain control. That's number one. Number two, let's reframe misunderstand. Because I think that when people misunderstand you or criticize you, like you could flip this and you could see it as a source of power. You know, there's this great quote by Ralph Waldo Emerson: to be great is to be misunderstood. Maybe you're different from your family. Maybe you're the one that's going to break some generational cycles. Maybe you are living out your truth and you're living your life on your terms. And that's very confronting to your family because they don't understand it. They don't need to understand what you're doing. You need to understand what you're doing. And that's why you also need to practice habits of self-validation and self-love and self-support. You got to stop looking outside of yourself for the validation, love, and support that you need. And you need to give it to yourself. Because when you can learn how to look yourself in the mirror, and even if your family doesn't understand you or they make you wrong or they say stupid that makes you, used to make you feel bad. If you can look in the mirror and say, well, I like who I am, I like my life. It might sting a little if your parents don't approve of what you're doing or your siblings question what you're doing or they don't support you the way you deserve to be supported. But their criticism won't change how you feel about you. So that's rule number one. Double down on habits of self-acceptance, on self-celebration, and stop looking for the validation, love, and support that you need in people who cannot give it to you. That's number one. Number two, I just said that you cannot change somebody else, but you can influence them by focusing on yourself and by coming from a different place. If you're in this sort of deadlock dynamic with your family, and you're going to them and you feel misunderstood, I guarantee you, on the other side, if you took the time, and I'm not suggesting you want to, but if you do want to improve your relationship, there's a simple thing about relationships. The one thing that will change any relationship dynamic, whether it's family or friends or romantic, committed partnership, the one thing that changes any relationship is you going out of your way to make sure somebody else's fundamental needs are met. Are you showing up in a way that your family feels seen and heard and appreciated? Are you reaching out? Are you acknowledging what they're doing? Are you complimenting them on the things that they're doing? You know, for many, many years, my mom and I were at a complete deadlock. We loved each other to death, but we didn't understand each other. And because we didn't understand each other, because in many ways we're super similar and in other ways we're very different, because we didn't understand each other, there was a lot of pent-up hurt because we wanted to feel connected. We wanted to feel supported by one another. But because we live our lives so differently, you know, she's in the Midwest, in the house that I grew up in a really small town. I went east for college. I never came home. We both hate the fact that we don't live near each other. And instead of somehow coming together and figuring out new ways to be more deeply connected rather than living next door to each other, we stopped understanding each other, and that led to a lot of this. And when you stop understanding each other, then you cross your arms and go, oh, well, I'm over here, and why are you over there? And, you know, if you know, come on over the line, and then I'll feel safe with you again. And so we were in a standoff for a long time. A lot of misunderstanding, kind of hurt feelings, bristly phone calls. When I'd get together, you know, either going to see my folks or then coming here, it'd be tense because there was so much unresolved stuff because we didn't understand each other. I wanted her to be loving. She wanted me to be loving. I wanted her to make more of an effort. She wanted me to make more of an effort. Does this sound familiar, everybody? Well, if you want to stop the tug of war that comes from misunderstanding, drop the rope and understand that everybody on the planet just wants to be seen, to be heard, and to be celebrated. And one of the things that has profoundly changed my relationship with my mom, it's started to heal it, is first of all, I've done a tremendous amount of work on myself for my own childhood trauma, my own nervous system. Healing yourself is the greatest way to heal any other relationship because every relationship starts with you. But the second thing that I did is 3 days a week, I have an alarm that goes off in my phone at the same time that says, call mom. And I pick up the phone and I call my mom. And the only intention behind that call is to just check in and ask her a bunch of questions about what's going on and to show up in a way, no strings attached, that makes my mom know that I see her, I hear her, and I appreciate and celebrate her. And I notice that the more frequently we talk and check in, the way more connected we are, the way more we understand one another. And it's been and was one way for a long time because I did it with no strings attached. I did it not to fix my mom. I did it to empower a dynamic where I was showing up differently. And by me showing up differently, it has created a way for her to show up differently because she now feels emotionally safe with me. She now feels like I understand her again. She now, and says this, I feel like you're back. I feel like the daughter that left for college and never came home has actually come home. And that has happened because I've worked on myself, because I have stopped doing what you're doing, which is crossing your arms and going, nobody understands me, and why don't they support me, and why don't they show up differently? And I've instead said, this matters to me. So I'm going to give my folks what I have been wishing I'd get from them. And that shifts everything. Because behind any person that doesn't understand you, or any person that you have some kind of toxic dynamic, I promise you, there is either their own childhood trauma and untreated stuff that they don't have any idea that is impacting their current relationships, or more likely, or on top of, there's hurt feelings. Somebody feels disrespected, somebody feels invisible, somebody feels disconnected. And human beings, instead of leaning toward each other, tend to cross their arms and lean back. It's a protection mechanism. So that's a whole lot that I just threw at you, but I think I can sum it up. If you feel misunderstood by your family, is number one, stop going to them for understanding and start giving it to yourself. Double down on the habits in the High Five Habit book, habits of self-acceptance, habits of seeing yourself, habits of understanding yourself. The next thing that you can do is work on your own healing. That's the best way to heal any other relationship, is heal yourself first, and get your nervous system regulated, get your childhood trauma treated, get yourself in order so that you can look yourself in the eye and be proud of and loving of yourself. And then the final piece of advice is, if you truly want to try to shift the dynamic, change how you're showing up and focus on acting in a way that the people in your life that you want to connect with feel seen, heard, and appreciated by you. And frequency of phone calls, remembering important dates, asking questions and caring, and doing it with no strings attached is the fastest way to turn a relationship around. And I think it's really important that you, if you take that on, you do it because you want to be the kind of person that shows up that way. But you drop the expectation that somebody else will actually change. You're changing how you show up because that's what aligns with your values. And if you like this video, you're going to love this one next. Check it out.